Gymnast Simone Biles has been in the news a lot recently due to her leaving the Tokyo Olympics and some sexual assault claims she has made against others in the field. What happened, and what's this new revelation in this case? Make sure to watch to the end of the video to know the latest revelation from Simone Biles that is so very sad, and some other news about her. Should she have really quit gymnastics long before Tokyo? In recent interviews, Simone Biles is smoking out about everything surrounding her leaving the Tokyo Olympics and her sexual abuse claims against Larry Nassar. She admitted that she should have quit gymnastics long before she entered the Tokyo Olympics. Whilst talking to the New York magazine, Simone Biles said, "I should have quit way before Tokyo when Larry Nassar was in the media for 2 years. It was too much, but I was not going to let him take something I've worked since I was 6 years old for. I wasn't going to let him take that joy away from me, so I pushed past that as long as my mind and my body would let me." She seemed really adamant about her time in the sport. Hopefully, she now has time to heal her wounds. Now, was her withdrawal from the Tokyo Olympics really inevitable? Other than the obvious reasons for leaving the Tokyo Olympic Games, Simone Biles also revealed that her withdrawal from the Games were inevitable due to an illness that came upon her weeks before the Games. She said she had developed a case of the twisties. This is a very common thing amongst athletes, and it's where your body and mind are miscommunicated or severed altogether. This usually comes about in the middle of a high-flying gymnastics move and can have some really bad consequences if it happens. She said she had this mental illness which makes her feel lost in the air and unable to complete her moves. "It's like going blind," she said. Sources say her body was not physically capable, but is that true? With the twisties in place, Simone really just couldn't do anything. She said, "I was not physically capable. Every avenue we tried, my body was like, Simone, chill, sit down, we're not doing it." This must have been awful for her, going into the Games already feeling a little down due to the way everything worked in the COVID climate, then feeling like you can't even perform due to your body like giving up on you. No wonder she felt mentally ill and drained. She just wasn't herself anymore, and you'll see more of this later on in the list. So stay tuned to see what else happened to her. Simone is a strong woman, but this was just a little too much even for her. Was Simone Biles maybe too confident going into the Games? One annoying thing for Simone was that she had such confidence going into the Tokyo Olympic Games. She was obviously prepared to go to Tokyo, get on the flight, and perform as best she could. It was just another Olympic Games, something she had done many times before, and it wouldn't be as bad, right? Her team said she had confidence stepping onto the flight, but couldn't anticipate all of the hurdles she had to jump over to actually get into the Games. She was very stressed with all the COVID rulings, the testing, and just not doing well mentally throughout the entire process. This is why she originally pulled out of the Games, claiming she had mental health issues. But this was obviously only the surface of her struggles. The Games were always going to be hard, but how hard? Outside of the stress and the breaking down of her confidence going into the Tokyo Games, she also didn't realize how much the new regulations would affect her mood and her actual performance. She had all the best pep talks in the world from her teams to best prepare for her Games and the new way everything would be set out, but some things were missing that she didn't realize she needed deeply. There was no crowd, no parents, she said. It was going to be much harder mentally to get into her game plan and actually come out on top like usual. All of this piled on, and in the end, she really just broke down. These Games were much harder than ever for her, and she didn't even realize it until it was far too late for her. USA Gymnastics really should have done more, but have failed to stop abuse. Just recently, we saw Simone Biles actually come out and talk about her alleged abuse from Larry Nassar. She had a tearful testimony against him in front of a Senate just the other month and said some of the blame goes to the USA Gymnastics for not halting his reign of abuse until it was way too late. The crimes that Nassar committed came out of the woodworks back in 2016, and Simone kept her side of the story secret until 2018 due to the stress and pressure she felt at that moment. She was very fragile at that time and knew that her Olympic time was coming to an end. She just couldn't handle any of it anymore, and it obviously all came to an end this year for the Tokyo 2021 Olympic Games. Make sure you stick around and don't go anywhere, because we're about to find out what leaving the sport done to her life. It also looks like leaving the sport has been the best thing for her in years. She's finally able to live her life and get away from all the stress that being an Olympic gymnast and all of that abuse did to her. Her departure from the Olympic and gymnastic world has allowed her to travel more and turn her life around. She's now more focused on her family and her boyfriend than she ever was and ever could before she left. She still isn't over her departure, as something she still bursts out into tears about having to leave that life behind. But on the other side of it, she's happy, and is now her life has panned out. Simone has said, "We just have to be greater." What does this really mean though? Simone Biles is also very well known for what she actually did in the Olympic world. She isn't just in the news because because of all this drama and her leaving the Tokyo Olympic Games. She was a very huge and inspirational gymnast well before all of this. She has had 32 Olympic and World Championships with a gold and silver medal in Tokyo. She uses the platform and power she has to teach everyone a lesson. She recently said, "As a black woman, we just have to be greater because even when we break records and stuff, they almost just dim it down, as if it's just normal." She's completely right, and in using her platform to the best it can be. She's taken a really bad situation and turned it around to help others in her previous field and others just like her. It's truly inspirational and amazing. And now we're on to the one we've all been waiting for, the Simone Biles revelation. Here's what the list has been building up towards and what you've been waiting for. Simone Biles was tearing up at the release of her admission as to why she left the Tokyo Olympic Games. This was all due to a bunch of different things adding up into one large breakdown. She was dealing with the twisties and stress, as we said earlier, but also something much deeper and worse. She was dealing with major depression and suicidal thoughts as she was in denial of all the trauma she had faced over the past few years. The case of Larry Nassar was heartbreaking for her as she had to realize she had been abused, tell everyone about it, and then deal with the aftermath. Everything just piled up until she broke down and had to leave the gymnastics and Olympic world altogether. It is so very sad what she has been through, and people need to respect her journey and admire her strength right now. Simone was set to sweep the competition, but it didn't work out. Coming off that insane and tear-jerking revelation is something a little worse. Simone Biles was an amazing gymnast in her prime, and even before she decided to leave the Olympic world for good. Before the Tokyo Olympic Games even happened, and of course before she decided to go back, Simone was set to sweep the competition. She had been expected to win around 5 gold medals this year, and even ads around the world for the games had her set to sweep on the podiums. This was going to be one of the biggest games of her career, but the rest just didn't align for her. Simone decided that leaving the games was the best idea for her and regrets making another Olympic team for the event. It's a shame everything went down in the Tokyo Olympic Games as it did. It was meant to be a big year for her, but everything from the abuse to the twisties all adding up to this severe depression and pain just didn't do her any favors. And that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Bye.